as hell does matter because the Democratic candidate, James Malone, won the seat, which is an upset in itself, but won the seat by just under 500 votes. Let me repeat that. He won the seat by just under 500 votes. What does this say? What does this say? The 15th district is a part of Northern Dauphin County. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm from Dauphin County. Northern Lancaster County, not including the city of Lancaster, which is pretty heavily Democratic, but Northern Lancaster County, Manhattan Township, blue. But this is again a seat that President Trump won by 15 percentage points. What does this say? So national Democrats definitely touted this win as a very hopeful sign. A very hopeful sign in a seat that no one believed that the Democrats could pick up. That it was flipped in the Republican-controlled state Senate. So this got my mind thinking, what are we seeing here? What are we seeing here? Are we seeing a trend of displeasure with the Trump administration? I say yes. I say yes. But are we seeing a trend of displeasure with the current administration and what is happening currently at the national level? Was this a fluke? What does this mean for the midterm elections that will be upcoming next year? None of us can tell the future. But I'll just say my opinion. I think this is a very telling sign that the American people are dissatisfied, very dissatisfied with the current decisions and movements of the current administration. A state Senate seat that hasn't been held by the Democrat since the 1800s. The 1800s. But leave it to Trump to mess everything up. Am I right? Can I get an amen? Amen. So I'll also read a quote that I put down in my notes of the victorious candidate, now Senator-elect Malone. He said a lot of people, they did not like the chaos and they didn't like the fact that our leadership in Harrisburg has been silent. They really didn't like the fact that no one was listening. That's all I had to do was be an open ear. Very effective, interesting campaign strategy. Listening to what people want, what people in this country are craving and asking for. It is also something that I think is a disconnect. I'll even talk about the party that I'm registered in. That is a disconnect with our national Democrats. There's not enough listening. You guys may be in Washington, but some of y'all don't even ever come home to your home districts and hold a town hall. We like to talk about Republicans not holding town halls, in congressional especially, which is very true. But up until recently, before that, we could also say the same thing about Democratic representatives as well. There hasn't been much or a lot of transparency. And that is something that Mayor Malone highlighted in his victory speech. Maybe something that national Democrats should take heed of. Because people in this country are, in my opinion, desiring structural change. systemic change to how to overhaul whole systems in this country that don't work, that aren't working for all of us except your Elons and your Gateses and your Bezoses. It doesn't work for us. Having families choose between meals or healthcare, it's just unacceptable. And I think that was the first thing tonight in our little news flash of the week that I wanted to highlight, because I think that is a very telling sign of what is to come. And on our Sunday show, we'll drop this mention too. If you have any comments after marinating on it this week or weekend, we will definitely have a little highlight of this, but I wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page. And this show, thanks to Jeff, is international. So I wanted to give everyone that highlight of what we were able to accomplish in Pennsylvania and give people a sign of hope and that even through the darkness, that change can come. So that is the first thing I wanted to talk about tonight. The second topic that I wanted to touch on tonight, and this is so really, what the F is going on in Washington? I know what's going on. We have an administration that is in over its head, and it's in over its head because unqualified people are being put at the helm. Unqualified people who have no business being secretaries. There's like, and what's 18-year-old who's one of the top dogs at the State Department right now. And let me be very, very clear. I am not being ageist. I am someone who ran for office the first time at 18 years old. Actually, I was 17, but when I won, I took office when I was 18. So that's how that got a little technicality. So I truly believe in young people getting involved, but to take the mass of the State Department and your first priorities are slashing DEI initiatives, and making sure that our military doesn't have, we're not some open, diverse, Nah, you guys can't even handle a text group chat correctly. And let's rewind to a decade ago? Oh, her emails. Oh my gosh. Hillary emails. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah, we're texting reporters war strategies? What? I mean, it's just absolute hypocrisy. And not to do the job, and to do the job correctly. I want to go over here on my notes. I took down to keep everyone updated. I'm sure everyone listening has read the chats that were released by The Atlantic, and I just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. So Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, we'll talk about him later, posted in a chat on Signal, in a group chat, where they accidentally, and I put that in quotes because I don't know how this is possible, and listening to the congressional hearings that happened on this, it seems like they don't know how it's possible, but since they want to make sure They want to stay in the good graces of their ever-loving cult leader, President Trump. They kind of remain silent and mum on this fact. So the Atlantic released screenshots that show Secretary Hegseth laying out the timeline of a plan on attack on the Houthis in Yemen. So I'm going to read some of these texts just so everyone knows what was being talked about in this group chat, and this will go into what I'm going to give my opinion on in later. Defense Secretary Hegseth, he posted in a chat, team update. Time now 11:44 Eastern Time. Weather is favorable. Just confirm. With SETCOM, we are a go for mission launch. And then he listed several planned launches and strikes over the next couple hours at that time. And one message read, 12:15 Eastern, F-18s launch, first strike package. And 12:14, I had to do military time then. 2:15, he said, strike drones on target. When the first bombs will definitely drop. My dad over there is looking at me like, what? First of all, they showed up to the congressional meeting saying that this was not classified information. Oh, well, then I'm curious what is. I mean, I have never seen war plans being distributed on a text platform, but honestly, we've never seen anything like this Trump 2 disastrous administration. And then Trump gets up yesterday, and I have the quote right here. He says there weren't details, and there was nothing in there that compromised the attack, and it had no impact on the attack, which was very successful. There were no details. There were no details. You had the times. You had the places. You had what was being hit. This is the Trump tactic of lie and deflect. Lie and deflect. And it was journalist Jeffrey Goldberg who was the one who was added onto the group chat on Signal. That I'm sure if my phone dinged, and I found that the Secretary of Defense added me to a chat where they're discussing literal strike plans, I would have been very confused. Very confused. And it's a surprise, but it's not a surprise. It's a surprise, but it's not a surprise. Because when you put people in positions like this, like Pete Hegseth, this is what happens. This is absolutely what happens. And then you have the director of the FBI and traitor to this country, Tulsi Gabbard, going before Congress and saying that this is not a national security breach. What? I there's truly not much to say. And then also Trump gets on, also on Wednesday, he said, to the bottom of it really quickly, but it's really not that big of a deal. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. You jeopardize the lives of American servicemen, but he doesn't care about that. He doesn't give an iota about that. I guys, we are only in March. We are only in March. I was talking to someone who I know who voted for President Trump, and they were telling me, oh man, I regret my vote. Ugh, like, this is so bad. I didn't think it would be this bad. First of all, I told you it would be this bad. Like, I was telling you the whole election cycle that if he were to win again, it was going to be this bad. But because you wanted to be selfish and only think about yourself and not think about the general community and country, here we are. So eat it. Eat it. I do not want to hear the Trump supporter tears when this, and it's already hitting their pocketbooks, but when this really starts desecrating their communities. First of all, I hate the narrative of like, oh, if he's gonna, deport everyone, who's gonna, pick the apples and who's gonna do jobs that Americans don't want. First of all, let's stop describing people as if they're not human, as if they're robots. These are human beings that have fled their countries, most likely because of persecution, fear of violence, and came to this country with an expectation that they would be treated fairly and were able to pursue the American dream. Now, this may rile some people up, and we can even elaborate on this on Sunday during our long show. But look, I personally am not for people entering the country legally. Hate using that term. I don't think any person is illegal, but let's just say not going through the proper path of citizenship. But on the flip side, there are people that have waited 16, 17 years to become citizens of this country. It is incredibly difficult to become a citizen of this country. But the Republicans and some Democrats too, let's just be honest, don't want to create an easier pathway for people to be able to become citizens of our country and become our neighbors. It works both ways. You can't complain about people not wanting to go through a 10 to 18 year process that is convoluted, complicated, and a process that I don't believe many Americans that are naturalized born citizens could even pass, but not want to come up with a solution. So I'll just say I don't want to hear if you voted for this man and we're only in March. We got a long way to go. And he is going to come for me, for you, for everybody. It doesn't matter if you voted for him. It doesn't matter, because all this man and his co-president Elon care about are themselves. Themselves and lining their pocketbooks. That is all they care about. So I don't want to hear the tears. I don't want to hear the tears, especially when communities that look like me, especially, are being targeted. But then also on even more so when it starts affecting you. Eat it. This may sound bad, but I hope it does negatively affect every person that decided to vote for this man. Period. Full stop. I hope it does. It's only March, guys. It's only March. I don't. But we got to keep standing together. We really do. And it doesn't matter where you live. Everyone needs to stand up and fight the fight. And how does one do that? That's a question that I've heard a lot as well. How can I help? How can I tune in Sunday? That's going to be a topic of conversation. How can you get involved? I know one way that I'm doing is any organizations or institutions that are slashing their DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which part of that do you have a problem with? Just come out and say you're racist. Just come out and say it. But organizations that are slashing that, they will not receive my money, period. And someone can make the argument, oh, well, I'm just one person, my one little buy isn't going to affect them. We are stronger together. It can't only be one person. We need to hit these people economically where it hurts. So that's just one example I'll throw out there of something that, myself and people I know have been doing. Your Walmarts, your Sam's Clubs, we're not buying from there. We're not buying from you because you don't value us. You don't value us. Friends, that is all the time I have tonight. But Sunday we are going to get into way deeper discussions on the other side of information with Jeff Kennedy. Again, I am temporarily filling in for Jeff, but you can see the resemblance. We're brothers from another mother, for real. And family isn't just blood, and he really is family to me and everyone on this station. So I am going to be temporarily filling in here, but don't you worry. We're going to have some really good conversations. We're going to have some really good guests that you can ask questions to, and we can keep the conversations going in standing up for truth, in standing up for human rights, and standing against homophobia, xenophobia, sexism, and everything that this administration stands for. So, my friends, it was good to be with you tonight. Tune in Sunday. We will be back. I'm excited to be back with you again. Our guest Sunday is going to be Dr. Joyce Davis, former NPR Middle East Bureau Chief, former Vice President of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty in the Czech Republic, Radio Sloboda Evropa, Radio Sloboda, and also someone who has seen and who has been not just in the Middle East, but in martyrdom camps, has talked to teenagers and adults who have killed themselves for a cause, and we're going to discuss why and all the nitty gritty on that. My friends, this has been The Other Side of Information with